I just gave the animals their feed, and you can tell that they're all just sitting around. They're all laying around. They don't want to eat anything. But this animal right here, that animal right there, and that animal right there, and I'm considering this brindle calf right here, the shorthorn Brahma. I'm thinking about taking these four, and I'll have to take a look at how many animals I want to take to the market. But the whole thing is that I would anticipate that I take an average of about 6.5 animals to market every month for about the next 5 months. That's what I would anticipate. So it's like if I take 4 this month and then I take 8 next month, it's the same thing. It's still 6 animals, right? And so I'm taking a look at everything. You know, we were talking about yesterday. I was talking about what does the money look like, right? What do I see when I look at my business? And this whole emphasis on you don't want to be in a situation where you're just you're just bringing home oh my god, I gotta think about cash. You don't want to be in a situation where you're constantly only thinking about cash. All right, you want to be thinking, I would highly suggest that you think about things like good investments, right? What is a good investment? If I put money in this thing, I believe that it will go up because of these reasons, right? It's a company producing this product, and the company's evaluated at these multiples, right? I take a look at the earnings of the business and they're at this multiple, and et cetera, et cetera. And I was actually taking a look at my numbers yesterday, and I actually think that I'm going to make more than $250,000 this year. I actually think I'm going to do more than 250,000. And here's the thing, I actually think I'm going to do drastically more than 250,000, because $250,000 is what I would make on this 10.5 acre field. If I were to farm 10.5 acres for the entire year, you know, if I were to sit here on this 10.5 acre field for the entire year and just farm this field effectively, just do the same thing until the end of the year, I would make about $250,000. All right, but I'm not going to be farming a 10.5 acre field. I'm actually looking at buying myself a very big field. This is why I'm getting everything ready, right? I'm getting everything ready to go. I'm getting everything lined up, right? I want to be I'm anticipating that starting about the beginning of next month, I will start liquidating animals. You know, I still have a significant net positive in my herd, right? I still have a significant net positive in the herd. I'm not underwater on anything, right? My financials are very good right now. I mean, if I actually take a look at my numbers, I'll actually probably end up making over $250,000 take home pay on this 10.5 acre field. All right, my financials look very good right now. I'm very far in the green. I'm doing very well for myself. When I talk about my assets, I always talk about the conditions required for liquidating assets. All right, when I liquidate my assets, there are only really 2 reasons for me to do it. Right, I do not have the capacity to appreciate the value of the asset anymore profitably, or I actually need the cash, and I don't need the cash. All right, I don't need the cash, but I'm not going to raise these animals up to 900 pounds. I would say that my 4 biggest animals are getting close to about 750, 800, something like that. They're actually getting close, and I don't want to take them up to 850. I don't want to take them up to 900. 800 is good. 750 is good. All right, if I had grass and I was taking a look at my balance sheet and I said, you know what, I actually have way too much cash. I don't really want any more cash. I want to think about it, and I want to figure out what am I going to do with the money. Then sure, I could raise the animals for another month. But here's the thing, and I know that this whole thing, it sounds horrible, right? I mean, when I say it, it sounds horrible, but I'm just going to say it for the purpose of giving honest information. When it comes to me and money, one of the biggest problems that I have to deal with when it comes to money is making an exorbitant amount. I make a massive amount of money. All right, that's it, and I have to figure out what am I going to do with the money. This 10.5 acre field is probably going to make me over $250,000 net take home pay over the next 365 days. Over 250,000, and I have to figure out what am I going to do with the money, right? Do I want to leverage a portion of it to buy myself some new real estate, right? Do I want to, how much of that is going to be taxable? How much of that is going to be taxed? Do I want to reinvest that portion into purchasing more tax deductible assets? right? I mean, what do I want to do? And I've actually even been considering just, because I've been talking about this whole thing about buying stocks, right? And I've actually been thinking about maybe I would just buy well, my whole thing is that I would buy Coca-Cola until it hit about 28 times earnings. I actually think that Coca-Cola is in a very good place to buy right now. I would actually purchase Coca-Cola until it hit 28 times earnings, somewhere roughly around 27, 28 times earnings. And then I would switch over to the S&P 500. And I could actually just start dumping money into the stock market. And then I could just go and get a loan against my stocks. I've actually been thinking about that too, because, I don't, and I talk about this all the time, but if I go and get a loan against my stocks, if I take my earned income and I put that in the stock market and then I take a loan against my stocks, I can take that loan and purchase cattle with it, and then I can tax deduct my money, right? I can get a tax deduction for my money, and I'm not having to spend cash. All right, I can go and I can purchase stock, and I could probably purchase about $10,000 worth of stock every month. All right, I can go and purchase about $10,000 worth of stock every month. And then when I have some sort of money, and if I had $50,000 worth of stock, I would take a loan for all of it if they would give it to me, because I don't care about 50 grand. All right, I can make 50 grand tomorrow if I felt like it. It's not 50 grand is not a lot of money. 50 grand is a worthless amount of money, and the stock market is not going to go to zero. All right, I talk about this all the time. If you think that the stock market is going to zero, you're an idiot. If you think that the S&P 500 is going to zero, you're an idiot. We're actually more at risk of the stock market going the other way, inflating uncontrollably. And I don't even think that the stock market is going to inflate uncontrollably. I don't think it's going to. That's like a doomsday scenario. What do I realistically think is going to happen? I think that in 10 years, we're going to have whatever. In 10 years, we're going to, Coca-Cola going to go from selling from $1 a can to $1.25 a can. That's what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to see about 25% inflation, 20% inflation over the next 10 years. If you're paying $1,500 a month for rent right now, you'll probably end up paying about $2,000. That's what I think is going to happen. All right, and in terms of the overall broader economy, in terms of what do I see in terms of the overall broader economy? What do I see when I look at the economy? The 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s, it was a very good time it was a very opportunistic time to start a business. I mean, people were starting businesses everywhere. You had Google and Facebook and all of these companies popping up, Apple, right? You had all these companies coming up, Microsoft. You had all these giant companies getting started. And it was a very good time to start you could actually make a lot of money starting a business. But nowadays, starting a business is a horrible idea. There are so many businesses out there that if you really want to run a business, then you should go and buy a business. That's what I would suggest. And I actually think that in terms of when I see the overall economy, I actually think that what's going to happen is that we're not going to see a whole massive amount of companies being started. I don't think that it's going to happen. I think that what's actually going to happen is that the assets that we have as of right now are going to inflate. That's what I think. I don't think we're going to see a whole bunch of new companies. I don't think we're going to see 15 multi-trillion-dollar companies appear in the next 10 years. I don't think we're going to see But then again, what do I know? I mean, there's a lot going on with AI and genome technology. I mean, there's a they got CRISPR and I've even been reading stuff about they're using microchips in people's brains to stop dementia and Alzheimer's, and Elon Musk is working on something with that with Neuralink. Right, I mean, they can install a microchip into your brain if you have dementia, and it'll actually stop you from having dementia. And they got all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, they got robotic limbs, right? If you're paralyzed, they can stick a little thing on your waist, and it'll let you it'll let you walk again. And they're printing organs, right? I mean, there's a lot of cool things going on, right? And so, I mean, what do I know, right? I mean, we might be in a situation where we see many we might see it. I mean, there might be a multi-trillion-dollar companies that appear. So, but I don't think that just long story short, I don't think that the economy is going anywhere near to zero. Okay, the economy is not going anywhere near zero. If anything, it's going to go the other way. All right, I don't think the economy's going to zero. That's what I'm gonna. That's the ultimate conclusion. That's my final conclusion. When I take a look at things, I don't think that the economy's going to zero. I don't think that the economy's going to zero. Okay. Oh, that was weird. This animal just I don't know what's going on, but he walking funny. Yeah, I don't think that the economy's going to zero. Okay. And the S&P 500 is probably a good stock. I think that Coca-Cola is a good stock until you hit about 28 times earnings. When I take a look at the forward the forward projection of the Coca-Cola stock, I actually think that the company's going to do better this year than they did last year. They're sitting at 26 times earnings, and if the stock price stays the same and the earnings go up 5-10%, then the earnings ratio is going to drop to about 22, 23. And I actually think that Coca-Cola is and if I think of 25 as the baseline, I think that Coca-Cola is going to do. I think that the price of Coca-Cola should be about $68. I think that the Coca-Cola stock is undervalued. And so I'm thinking maybe what I'll do is I'll end up taking the money out of my, because here's the thing. It's like, when I take a look at my business, right, it produces money, right? It produces money. And, in terms of liquidation of assets, there is a time that I have to liquidate assets. It doesn't matter if I don't want to, even if I don't want to liquidate assets, there is a time to liquidate assets. I will have to do it under any circumstance. All right, I will have to do it. And so, and I don't want to be sitting around with, I don't want to be sitting around with $70,000. All right, I don't want to be sitting around with $100,000. It's not going to do anything. All right, 100 grand is not going to do anything. This is something I talk about all the time, right? 100 grand is a worthless amount of money. It's like if you had 100 grand, what would you do with 100 grand? You're going to retire, right? What are you going to do with 100 grand? 100 grand doesn't do anything. Right, and I talk about this all the time. If you want 100 grand, go to the bank and take a loan. Right, it'll cost you like $600 a month. Right, if you legitimately are like, oh my God, 100 grand is gonna save my life, then go to the bank and take a loan for 100 grand. 100 grand will cost you like $600. All right, 100 grand is a worthless amount of money. It's not gonna do anything. All right, and so I don't want to be in a situation where I'm sitting here with, with $100,000 cash and just sitting here doing nothing with it. Right, cash is like one of the in terms of an investment, it's like one of the worst investments. If you have cash, you're gonna get taxed. Right, you're gonna get taxed. It doesn't do anything. If you have $100,000 cash right now, next month it's going to be $100,000 cash. The month after that, it's going to be $100,000 cash. The month after that, it's going to be $100,000 cash. If at the end of the year you still have that $100,000 cash, you're going to be taxed for like 35% of it. You're going to have to write the government a check for like 35 grand. You're going to have to write, depending on your income, you're going to have to write the government a check for like 25 grand. Right? Cash doesn't do anything. Right, it's kind of it's not. I'm not saying that cash is a worthless asset. I'm just saying that cash is like it's not a good investment. Right, if you have $100,000 cash and you go and purchase an asset at its appraisal value, right? You take a look at whatever the asset may be. Right, there are a lot of assets that you can buy. There are whatever the asset may be, that you could buy a business, you could buy a piece of land. Right, you could buy anything. As long as you have a reasonable understanding of what the appraisal value of the asset is, right? And the appraisal value is effectively done by somebody who more or less knows what they're doing, right? You have an expert look at it, right? And in terms of the stock market, right, the appraisal value of a stock is effectively, the market cap, the market cap divided by the market cap. It's the earnings times the multiple equals the market cap, right? And so, and then if you take a look at it and you have a reasonable way of taking a look at it, then, And but that's the thing about cash, right? I talk about cash all the time. Cash is not a good investment. I mean, is it important to have some cash on you? Sure, it's important, right? I mean, you should have enough cash to at least pay for your bills, right? I mean, you should have enough cash to whatever, pay for the things that you need. And if you have an emergency, then you can pay for it. But realistically, I mean, after that, cash doesn't have any sort of use. And also, cash is also the most heavily taxed. It is the most heavily taxed. If I went right now and I purchased actually, here's a very good way for me to put it. Let's say I go and I get myself $100,000 cash, right? Let's say I have $100,000 cash, and by the end of the year, I didn't use any of it. I didn't invest any of it. I didn't do anything with it. That $100,000 cash, I would have to write the government a check. With where my income is right now, I would have to write the government a check for about 30 grand. I would have to write the government a check for about 30 grand. But if I went right now and I took that 100 grand and I went to the sale barn and I said, you know what, I'm looking for number 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame animals. I've taken a look at the feeder cattle market. The feeder cattle market is sitting at this number. My local commodity market is trading at about these estimates. So I took a deduction off of the broader feeder cattle number. And then, I said, when I sell my animal, I want to double my money. So I come up with a reasonable way of how to do that. I take a look at my local commodity market. My local commodity market is selling at roughly a 10% discount of the broader commodity market. So I go and I take the feeder cattle number and I take 10% off of that feeder cattle number. And I say, well, when I sell my animal, I want to double my money. So I take that number and then I divide it by 2. Then boom, there's a logical way for me to do it. So I take this formula, I take this idea, I take this formula, and then I go and I guess what you would call execute. Right? I buy the animals. I take my money and then I buy the animals. And within a 93% margin, whatever, right? I mean, I don't just buy straight number 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame animals. I just use that as a gauge for the market. So I go and I buy the animal. And if I go and I purchase $100,000 worth of cattle, I don't have to pay any taxes on my earnings at all anymore. At all. The $100,000 that I have made for the year has become zero tax. I get a tax deduction for all of it. And with that money, I didn't even spend any of it. I just traded the money for something that was equally as valuable as the money. And why did I do that? Because with these assets, I get a tax deduction. And granted that I do my part, I can actually appreciate the value of these animals. And so this is a very realistic way to look at it. Right? I made $100,000. I took a look at my situation and I said, if I sit here with the $100,000, I will have to pay the government $30,000 in taxes. I will have to do that. But instead of doing that, I took my money and I came up with a reasonable idea. I said, I'm gonna do this with the money, and when I do that with the money, I get a tax deduction. Now I go and I purchase said asset for that reasonable price. And the reason that I did that was to get the tax deduction, trade the money for something that was equally as valuable as the money. And now I am going to appreciate the value of the asset. And when I appreciate the value of the asset, that is called an unrealized gain. I don't pay taxes on the unrealized gain. And this is what I call, and so now I went from a situation where I owed the government $30,000. Now I went from a situation where I owed the government $30,000 to a situation where I owe the government nothing. And the $100,000 that I put into my business is now worth about $175,000. That's why I do, that's how I make my money. And now think about it in terms of I'm going to make about $250,000 this year on this cattle business. I'll make about $250,000, maybe even more. So think about it like that. If I had to pay taxes on $250,000, I would be paying the government almost like $80,000 in taxes. So instead of paying, instead of paying the $80,000 in taxes, I took the money, right, and I purchased a piece of land by leveraging a portion of the money that I make. And then I went and increased the size of my herd. All right, this is where you get to a point where this is how I make my money. I utilize assets to make my money. All right, this is what I call this is what I call printing your own money, right? And so, and the whole thing about the cattle business is that when it comes down to it, I may be one of 5 people on the entire planet that can run a business like this. One of 5. There's not some long list of people that can do this. Somewhere you will fail and then you will lose all your money. I've already said this. If you take a look at the situation that I'm in and you actually take a look at it, it's a 0.0000001% success rate. I actually don't know anybody that can even do 10%. And a very realistic way to look at that is see if you can find anybody who is on a 10.5 acre field making even $2,000 a month or $1,500 a month. See if you can find anybody. When you actually take a look at what I do and you actually consider it for what it is, we're talking about a 0.00001% success rate. Somewhere you will fail and then you will lose all your money. And I actually wanted to talk about this whole situation going on with the commodity market, because I had thought that when corn hit 480, that the feeder cattle market would buckle. I thought that the feeder cattle market would go down. I thought that it would. It was sitting at about 250, and I thought that when the corn market hit 480, that the feeder cattle market would buckle. I thought that it would fall, but the corn market is at 485 right now, and the feeder cattle market actually broke north. It actually went the other way, and I was not anticipating that. I thought that if the corn market went to 480, that the feeder cattle market would start to fall. But when the corn market went to about 480, the feeder cattle market went the other way. It went up. So, I have to recalculate the numbers, but this is a very realistic, with the price of corn where it is right now, I would roughly estimate that at about 230, if the feeder cattle market falls about 20% with the corn price where it is right now, even if the corn price went sideways, and the feeder cattle market fell 20%, I would actually anticipate that a majority of people who are feeding cattle on commodity feedstuffs, feed yards, etc., everybody who is like, oh my God, I want to get in the cattle business because I just want to feed them. I don't want to actually learn how to farm, right? I just want to feed them, right? I don't want to learn how to grow the grass. I don't want to learn how to run the business. I don't want to learn how to take care of the animal. I just want to feed the animal, right? And everybody is effectively going to get wrecked at the same time. I would actually anticipate that we're very close to potentially seeing it happen. The corn price is already at 485, but originally I had anticipated that corn, when corn went to 480, I thought that the feeder cattle market would fall. I thought that the feeder cattle market would buckle, but it went the other way. And corn futures are actually borderline $5. So corn is actually projected to go higher even still. So, I mean, if corn goes to $5 and the feeder cattle market falls to about 240, everybody who is feeding cattle that does not have, if you have good machinery and et cetera, if you're not in a situation where you just have cattle and you're growing grass and you're feeding 70% of their diet in grass and you have no machinery, if you're not in a business like, what I call, that's the whole situation for my business, right? I mean, here in about a month and a half, I'll be feeding grass. And when I feed grass, I don't have any equipment. I just put the animals on it. And they get about 75% of their diet in grass. And the grass is borderline free to grow. It's borderline free. maybe it costs me about $400 a month to grow grass. When the biomass is accumulating very well, maybe it costs me $500 a month to grow grass. The grass is practically free. I don't have any equipment. I just put my cattle on it. Right, I mean, and I feed about 75% of their diet for about 35 animals for about $500. If you're not in a situation like that, if you're feeding commodity feedstuffs, and you're in a situation where you're like, oh man, I just want to make money on the cattle, and well, everybody's gonna get wrecked. Everybody, 98% of people are just gonna, oh my God, I'm only making $15 an animal. I'm only making $20 an animal. I guarantee it. I would actually be willing to bet. Right? I mean, now you got to pay for your equipment. Now you got to pay for your commodity feed stuff. If you're in Central Texas, you're paying a premium for your corn. Right? I mean, et cetera, et cetera. I would almost guarantee it. All right? I mean, if you actually take a look at what I'm doing, we're talking about a 0.00001% success rate. There's a reason for that. I've already said, if you take a look at how much money I make, I mean, everybody, effectively almost anybody on the entire planet would sell their soul for this kind of money. Would I sell my soul for it? No, I took the long way. It took me almost 32 years to make it. I didn't even get paid until my 33rd year, and I still worked at it every single day. All right, I mean, and if you think, I mean, and I've always said that, it's a free country. Right, I mean, if you want to go and if you want to know what it's like to make yourself, have a $5 million net worth, generate a $5 million net worth for yourself, and start yourself a first-generation cattle ranch on a 10.5 acre field. If you want to know what that feels like, then go and do it. Nobody's stopping you. Right, it's a free country. I mean, you don't have to ask nobody. Right, I mean, and there is no shortcut. There is no shortcut. If you think that there's a shortcut, you're an idiot, and you're going to end up launching yourself off a cliff. I guarantee it. The cattle business is not some magical journey. All right, it's probably one of the hardest things that you could ever imagine doing. I would actually even be willing to bet, if we took everybody and said, you know what, we're just going to have everybody go for it, I would actually bet with every single person that you don't even make it to the 10% mark. You don't even get to a point where you can even make $2,000 a month. Everybody. I would actually bet with every single person 10 to 1, my 10 to your 1, that nobody makes it to even the 10% mark. And if I took that bet, I would have an unlimited amount of money. I would make such a massive amount of money on that bet that it wouldn't even matter. Right, and I give away the information for free with the intentions of, it just is what it is. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, I make so much money running cattle that I can effectively do anything on the entire planet. If you actually take a look at what I do, I mean, we're talking about a borderline 0% success rate. 0.00001% success rate. All right, and if you want to know what the 10% mark, the 10% mark is effectively, I don't even know anybody making $2,000 a month on a 10.5 acre field. Somewhere along the way, everybody fails. Somewhere along the way, effectively everybody fails. There may be 5 people on the entire planet that can run a business like this. 5 people on the entire planet. Effectively, everybody fails at some point. You didn't want to learn how to grow the grass, well, you failed. The commodity markets did a double whammy on you, and you lost all your money. You hemorrhaged money. You lost tens of thousands of dollars. Congratulations. Right? You didn't develop a business plan for yourself, and then congratulations, you failed. Right? I mean, you don't want to learn how to run the business. Well, you got taxed at the maximum percentage. Et cetera, et cetera. Your business never went anywhere, and then you failed. You never made any money. You borderline made enough money to barely do anything for yourself forever, and then you failed. Congratulations. Right? You don't want to learn how to run the cattle. You don't want to learn how to, identify the cattle, and you don't want to learn how to, think about the commodity markets. Congratulations, you failed. Your cattle didn't condition properly. Right? I mean, you didn't put them on the right feedstuffs. You misanticipated what kind of feedstuffs you should put them on, and then you failed. Congratulations. Everybody fails. And I'm not saying that, to encourage people to fail. I'm just saying that that's the reality of the situation. If you actually take a look at what I do and then just take a look at it for what it is, we're talking about a borderline 0% success rate, and there's a reason for that. In terms of the broader U.S. economy, not just farming, but in terms of the broader U.S. economy, and if you take a look at how much money I generated, I mean, we're talking about a 0.000001% success rate. And that's not even just in farming. That's for the overall broader U.S. economy. All right, if we talk about farming, I mean, I may be 5 out of 8 billion people. If you really scoured the earth and looked for somebody, I mean, there may be 5 people on the planet right now. It may not even be 5. It may be 3. It may be 2. I may be the only one. I don't know. I haven't met anybody that can farm like me. Not one person. Not even close. I don't even know anybody that can even do 10%. All right, and when you take a look at it and you take a look at this individual, and if you had an honest to God conversation with them, and you actually took a look at the numbers, it would not be a good situation. All right, they bought some tractor that they bought the latest and greatest tractor, and they got all these they got whatever, right? I mean, their corn, and 15% of the corn didn't even come in very good, and now they're going in the cattle business because they felt like etc. That there's most people are not doing I would say a majority of people are not doing very well. Majority, and I'm not saying that to kick anybody. If you're in a situation where your corn crop failed and you're hemorrhaging money, I'm not making fun of you. All right, if your farm is if you've barely been making enough to get by for a very long time, I'm not making fun of you. All right, it's a majority of people. It just is what it is. I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves. Does it have to be that way forever? No, it does not. But and I've that's the thing, is like me. I actually do this, right? I actually do this, and I make more money than effectively the entire country. All right, for the year 2000, am I one of the highest earners of all time? No, I'm not. I'm not one of the highest earners of all time. I just managed to get into the very top percentiles for the year 2024. And I actually make enough money at this point in time where I actually don't even worry about money anymore. I don't even worry about money anymore. Anything that I want, I could buy it. Anything. All right, it doesn't. Money is kind of like if I just went to the bank and I said give me $500,000, they took a look at what I was doing. They took a look at how much money I was making, and they said, okay, you got this as collateral. They would give me the $500,000, and if I took that $500,000 and I dug a hole in the ground and I threw that $500,000 in that hole and I lit it on fire, it wouldn't even dent my financials. It'd be about 15% of my money. All right, it wouldn't even matter to me. All right, if and I would actually anticipate that my income is actually going to go far higher than $250,000. I was taking a look at it, and I'm like, I gotta liquidate some animals. My animals are still in the net positive, and I'm taking a look at everything. My financials are very, very, very far in the green. I'm doing very well for myself. If you actually take a look at how much money I made in the year 2024, I actually made it to borderline 1 in like I don't even know, but it's a 0.000001 percentile. And I actually don't even worry about money anymore. I actually don't even worry about money anymore. And here's the thing, is I don't even know anybody that can even do 10%. This is not some joke. I'm not making fun of any, and if you're in a situation like where your farm is not doing very well or whatever, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just I'm just showing you my situation, because in terms of a financial sense, I do very, very well for myself. I mean, extraordinarily well. All right, I generate so much money farming that, I effectively, 99.9999% of the entire country is actually closer to being homeless than to making as much money as me. That's how much money I generated. All right, and that's just a statistical fact. That just is what it is. All right, if I were to copy and paste what I'm doing every day, or not every day, if I was going to copy and paste what I do every single year, once a year, you know, and I took a look at my situation, in 30 years, I would have about $200 million. Right, I mean, and that's another way to look at it. I mean, maybe I need to actually, and I'm actually looking at, but that would be if I copy and pasted what I'm doing exactly every single year for the next 30 years of my life, I would have about $200 million. Am I going to copy and paste what I'm doing every single year for the next 30 years of my life? No, I'm not. I'm actually looking at taking this exponential growth. I'm actually looking at growing this thing. I don't want to just copy and paste what I'm doing. I want to grow it, right? I want to increase what I'm doing. I found certain efficiencies, right? If I buy a larger piece of land, the price per acre drops. I found certain efficiencies that I can capitalize on, and et cetera, right? My capacity to be a cattleman is actually getting better. Right, I mean, and et cetera, right? I mean, I found different things that I can capitalize on to increase, to make my business more efficient and to increase my earnings, et cetera, right? I mean, I got different things that I've been working on, and I'm actually now we're in the single digit days. The number of days that it's almost time to start getting everything together. It's actually now 9 days. So we went from having double digit days to 9 days now. And I've got to take I took a look at how much money I think I'm going to make. How much money do I think I'm going to have in reserves? And then, what am I going to do with the money? I've taken a look at all these various things, and I figured, and I got a good plan together for myself. And at the end of the day, it's always, if I want to come back on a 10.5 acre field, let's just say in 3 months, I decide that I don't want to it turns out that buying a 350 acre ranch was a horrible idea. Right? Oh, I don't want to be a farmer anymore. I just want to go back and sit on my 10.5 acres, and I just want to make $250,000 for the rest of my life. If I want to do that, I can always come back. All right, I mean, if I want to sit on this 10.5 acre field forever and make $250,000 for the rest of my life, I can always come back and do that. It's not like, oh my God, now the opportunity's gone, right? I mean, I can always come back and do that. All right, and I've talked about this realistically with money. After about 15th, here's a very realistic way for me to put it. Everything that I do, my truck, I pay for my truck, I pay for my land, everything, I pay for all of my expenses, everything costs me about $5,000 a month. Everything. If you make $5,000 a month take home pay, you can go and buy yourself a piece of land. You can buy yourself a truck. And you can pay for all of your bills. You can. All right, and so this is something that I've granted that you don't have massive problems, right? Oh my God, I want to go and buy myself some G-Wagon. Oh my God, I want to go and buy myself designer clothing, right? I mean, granted that you're not an idiot. If you have $5,000 a month take home pay, you can pay for your land, you can pay for a piece of property, you can pay for your truck, you can pay for your bills. You don't have to worry. All right, in reality, from what I have seen, from my personal situation, because of the things that I have seen, if you bring home $15,000 a month, not $5,000, but $15,000, I bring home about $20,000. I bring home maybe $25,000 a month. When you start bringing home $15,000 a month, you can effectively do anything on the entire planet. Anything. You want to buy yourself, 3 Lamborghinis? Have fun. You want to dig a hole in the ground in your backyard and put $500,000 in it and light it on fire? Have fun. Granted that you have investments, granted that you're not spending all 15 grand, right? Like if you live on 7 grand, you live a comfortable life, right? You drive your G-Wagon, you have your nice house, and you still have $5,000 a month left over, and you invest that 5 grand into something that's equitable, and it's going to make you a positive return. You can effectively do anything on the entire planet. Anything. Once you start bringing home about $15,000 a month, granted that you're not an idiot, you invest a portion of it, you live comfortably, you could buy anything on the entire planet, short of like drugs, alcohol, gambling, a private jet. I mean, but that's the reality of the situation. When you start bringing home about $15,000, you don't even need $10 million, you don't need $1 million, you don't need any of that. All right, realistically, even if you brought home $10,000 a month, it would be enough money for you to do whatever the heck you wanted. You want to buy yourself a nice house and you want to buy yourself a G-Wagon. Should you do that with $10,000 a month? Probably not. I mean, that would be called leveraging yourself to the eyeballs. But if you made $15,000 a month, you could do that, and you would not even be close to being leveraged to the eyeballs. You could buy yourself a nice house, you could buy yourself a G-Wagon, and you could put $5,000 a month away into investments, and you would never worry about money again. Forever. I mean, legitimately, you would never worry about money again. All right, this cattle farm, and just to put things in perspective, this cattle farm will produces me this business right here produces me somewhere around $20,000 a month, and I get to keep all of the money. Granted that I continue to run the business knowledgeably, right? Because I purchase assets with the money that I make. All right, I put my money into my investments. I get a tax deduction when I do that. This 10.5 acre field makes me about $20,000 a month, maybe a little bit more. All right, but when you hit a certain amount of money, you can effectively do anything on the entire planet, anything. And I talk about this all the time. Am I going to go and pull every single bit of cash that I can out of my business? No, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? Sitting on the money is not going to do anything. When you hit about $15,000 a month, you can effectively do anything on the entire planet. Anything. If you want to go and buy yourself a G-Wagon, and you want to go and you want to buy yourself a nice house, and you could still put $5,000 in, you want to live a comfortable whatever, you want to buy everything buy all your groceries, pay for all your bills, you will still have like $5,000 a month left over. And you could put that into your investments. That's what money looks like for me. I'm actually taking a look at my situation, and I'm like, maybe I'll actually just end up buying $10,000 worth of the S&P 500 and Coca-Cola every single month until I get my new property figured out. I would anticipate that my farm produces about $11,000 a month cash, and that's not even me taking all the money out of my business. I actually am taking a look at my situation, and I have determined that if I take $11,000 a month out of my business, it wouldn't damage my business in any way, right? My business would not be damaged at all, and I can take that money and then I can show it to the banker, right? I mean, my business is still healthy. I'm not force liquidating my assets. I'm not leveraging myself to the eyeballs. I'm just taking $11,000 a month out of my business because that's the amount of money that I can take out of my business without causing any damage, and then I can show it to the banker. Right, I would say that my income, I've actually been taking a look at everything. My income is actually probably going to be closer to about $350,000. All right, if I farmed a 10.5 acre field forever, I would actually make it's going to be closer to, it's going to be over $250,000. But the $11,000 that I'm pulling out of my business, I'm doing that so I can show it to the banker. Is that all of the money that my business is making? No, it's not. I'm not going to take all of the cash out of my business. Why would I do that? There's no reason to do that. All right, I'm going to take about $11,000 a month out of my business every month for effectively the entire year and infinity and beyond. I'm just going to continuously pull about maybe even more. All right, I can actually grow my business and pull cash out of my business at the same time. Right, and this is what I was talking about yesterday, right? If I have an equitable evaluation of the herd, I'm not liquidating all of my animals at the same time. If I liquidate the biggest ones, this is how much cash I'll bring home. The rest of the animals still have an equitable value. If that equitable value is, I can appraise that equitable value and then take a loan for that equity amount. And then I can grow my herd and bring home cash at the same time. I can grow my business at the same time as I bring home cash. I'm not leveraged to the eyeballs. I'm just sitting at zero. I'm not even in the negative. If I decided that after I brought home all those cattle that I decided that I just wanted to quit the business and walk away, I could walk away from the business with $0. I wouldn't even be in the negative. All right, and I was talking about this yesterday, right? That was the big idea of the whole thing yesterday, to show you what I'm looking at. Right, I'm bringing home $11,000 a month because effectively, more or less, I have to do it, and I also want to show the banker. I want to show the banker the money. Right, I can pull $11,000 a month out of my business, and it doesn't damage my business in any sort of way. Right, it doesn't cause any problems for my business. My business is still healthy. I can actually grow my business right now effectively at the same time as I pull out this cash. Right, I can pull out the cash and grow my business at the same time if I felt like it, by utilizing this strategy. Right, I wouldn't even be in the negative. I would just be at zero. And I'm going to pull out the money every single month. And I would actually say that I'm going to pull out this money every single month for the long foreseeable future. And it's actually going to go up. All right. And I want to show that to the banker. I can pull this much money out of my business right now every single month. I'm not damaging my business. My business is still healthy. My balance sheet is still good. I could actually simultaneously grow my business at the same time if I felt like it. All right, I'm not leveraging myself to the eyeballs. I'm just at zero. I'm not even at zero. I'm still in the net positive. I'm very far in the net positive right now. All right, I'm very far in the net positive. I'm actually doing very well for myself. But I've been getting everything ready so that I can get everything ready for the bank, right? I've been getting everything ready. So, but we're in the single digit days now. We're at 9 days now. And it's getting close, right? I mean, we're 9 days away. And so that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.